The 2025 NFL season just sort of felt different.
This is a huge weight off his shoulders, his first playoff win of his career.
We're going to take an honest look at the highs and the lows. Let's dive into 5 reasons the 2025 NFL season was epic, and 5 as to why it completely sucked. Epic, Jackson Smith-Njigba and Sam Darnold turned Seattle into a juggernaut. Alright, let's start off with something fun. Remember when the Seahawks let Geno Smith walk and everyone wondered if Sam Darnold could actually do it again? Well, he did. Now marking his second of back-to-back 14-win seasons. The only quarterback since Tom Brady to pull that off. And Darnold did it with his second different team in 2 years. Let's key in on his time in Seattle, though, where he teamed up with JSN to create one of the most exciting young duos in quite some time. Jackson Smith-Njigba had already established himself as a solid NFL receiver. But with Darnold tossing him the pigskin, he took it to a whole nother level and finished with 1,793 receiving yards. Unanimous first-team All-Pro in just his second full season on the field. Here's what makes it even more impressive. The Seahawks weren't one of those air-it-out, high-volume passing offenses. In fact, they were close to the bottom across the NFL in terms of attempts. I think it's safe to say that Darnold proved that the Vikings were crazy for letting him walk. Sucked? The Raiders' Pete Carroll and Geno Smith disaster. Pete Carroll came out of retirement at 74 years old. The Raiders traded a third-round pick and gave Geno Smith a $75 million extension. And for some reason, people around the league just sort of nodded along like this experiment was a good idea. In spite of all the hype, they won just 3 games. Things were somehow worse for Geno Smith than Carroll, too. You see, the veteran led the NFL with 17 interceptions and got sacked 55 times, tied for the most in the league. Which, of course, made it next to impossible for the Raiders to run the ball, cutting into the value that they were supposed to get out of their first-round draft pick, Ashton Jency. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold, the guy Tom Brady allegedly didn't want, went 14-3 with the NFC's best record. Yeah, needless to say, Carroll got fired after 1 season, which at 74 years old is kind of a sad scene to imagine. Smith was another casualty of this brutal story. He removed Raiders references from his social media the day Carroll got canned. So, yeah, that relationship is over too. The whole thing was just a disaster from start to finish. Hey, sometimes you swing and miss, and the Raiders managed to do something even worse than that. Epic, Bryce Young's redemption arc. Now, this is the kind of story that makes you love football. Bryce Young got benched in 2024, the first overall pick, the guy the Panthers traded up for. Everyone, and I mean everyone, was calling him a bust. Then 2025 happened and boom, the narrative around the undersized quarterback is finally starting to change. Young threw for 3,011 yards, 23 touchdowns, which marks career highs across the board. And here are the 2 metrics that matter most. 12 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime since entering the league. The most in the NFL. Plus, the Panthers made the playoffs for the first time in 8 years, albeit at 8-9, but hey, they did it with the quarterback that everyone gave up on. Sucked? The ACL epidemic. On a list of huge names, there's probably no bigger than Patrick Mahomes, who went down in Week 15 against the Chargers with an ACL and LCL tear. Micah Parsons, same week, non-contact injury against the Broncos. Done. Nick Bosa back in Week 3, his second career ACL tear. Malik Neighbors, Michael Penix Jr., Marshawn Lattimore. Look, the list just keeps growing. The 2025 season just became a brutal reminder of just how fragile all of this really is. Epic, Myles Garrett breaks the sack record. The Browns went 5-12, and with all the issues that they had under center, truth be told, it was even uglier than that record suggested. But Myles Garrett? Whoo! Myles Garrett was something else entirely. The All-Pro defensive end set a new high watermark with 23 sacks, finally passing Michael Strahan, who set it at 22.5 in 2001, and TJ Watt, who tied it in 2021. The record-breaking sack came in Week 18 against the Bengals. Joe Burrow, get-off time of 0.23 seconds, the fastest of Garrett's entire season. The man was clearly locked in. He also passed Reggie White for the most sacks ever by a player under 30. 5 sacks in a single game against the Patriots in Week 9, his 5th first-team All-Pro selection. On a team going nowhere, Garrett put together one of the greatest individual defensive seasons in NFL history, against offenses that shifted into first gear and stopped throwing in the second half of so many games. It just didn't matter. Garrett showed up every single week and terrorized whoever was in front of him. That is what greatness looks like when it refuses to be dragged down by circumstances. Sucked, officiating chaos reaches a breaking point. Look, we complain about refs every year, but oh my, 2025 took it to a whole different level.
Naylor, and the crowd doesn't like that call at all.
Yeah, I don't like it too much myself.
The men in stripes were so bad this year that 3 officials got suspended mid-season. We're talking nationally televised blunders, missed calls, and botched clock management that changed outcomes. Fellas, something has to change. Everyone knows it. With each week, we see more players getting fined for speaking out, and coaches aplenty are biting their tongues in pressers. Meanwhile, the fans are just losing their minds on social media after every single primetime game. And yet, nothing changes. Same problems, same old excuses, same outcome. The NFL makes billions and just cannot figure out how to get their calls right. Epic, the Patriots' historic turnaround under Vrabel, from 4-13 to 14-3. That is a 10-win improvement, which ties the NFL record for the single best turnaround in league history. Ever since Mike Vrabel took over this offseason, the Patriot way is back, as indicated by them representing as the AFC's second seed with their first division title since the Brady-Belichick era. Think about it. The Patriots were a punchline last year. This year, they're hosting playoff games. Vrabel brought the culture back, the winning mentality, the expectation of excellence. New England is back. And it may have happened way faster than anyone thought possible. Sucked, a down year for the AFC's best quarterbacks. All 3 of these guys just had nightmare seasons. Mahomes went 6-8 before tearing his ACL, and over the final 2 games leading up to his injury, and the Chiefs missing the playoffs for the first time in his career, he played some of the worst football that we've seen from the future Hall of Famer. In Baltimore, it was a similar story. Lamar Jackson started 1-5, missed 3 games with a hamstring injury. The team managed to rattle off 5 straight wins to make a failed push at the playoffs, but they did so in spite of the former MVP, who completed less than 60% of his passes. And, it was not pretty in Cincy either. Burrow needed surgery for turf toe and missed 9 games. For the first time in literal years, the AFC playoffs won't have all 3. Epic, Philip Rivers' unbelievable comeback at 44. This one is just kinda wild. You see, let's roll it back a bit. Philip Rivers retired in January of 2021. He became a high school football coach in Alabama. He's a grandfather now. Literally, a grandfather. The Colts lost Daniel Jones to a torn Achilles. And then Riley Leonard went down with a knee injury. And then Anthony Richardson had mysteriously been on the IR for some time. So Indianapolis was pretty dang low on options. But Shane Steichen opened up his contacts and he called his buddy for a favor. Yeah, they called Philip Rivers at 44 years old and after 1,800 days away from the NFL. And he said yes, with an eye on inspiring the boys that he coached. Now, if that isn't perfect Philip Rivers, then I don't know what is. Sucked, the Shedeur Sanders circus. And finally, look, I'm gonna keep this one brief because honestly, I think we're all pretty dang tired of talking about it. Shedeur Sanders was all the hype going into the draft. He was projected to go in the top 10, heck, maybe even top 5. But he fell to the 5th round, where the Browns took him at 144. Big part of the issue was attitude concerns. Teams said that he came across as entitled in interviews. Plus, realistically speaking, a lot of those projections were based off of manufactured hype because of, well, who his father was, and all the clicks that content about Shedeur generated. To put it into perspective, the Browns had already drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. They took Sanders 40 picks later. That is the very definition of a flyer. And yet, we still spent countless hours talking about him ad nauseum. All for what? 1 win in 5 starts and more interceptions than touchdowns? The coverage was endless. But at the end of the day, he's a 5th round pick who went 1-4 as a rookie. That's not a story, that's just, well, a late round pick who struggled. It happens every year. We just don't usually spend 6 months talking about it. The circus was exhausting. Thankfully, though, I think it's time to move on. But hey, what was the most epic moment of the 2025 season for you? What do you think sucked the most? Was there anything notable that we may have missed here? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.